Hey everybody, Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell video for you today. As you can see, I have the Case This Sketch Challenge $3.95 here on my desk. I thought I would use the new Paper Pumpkin stamp set that came with last month's box. This is the Joy to the World stamp set with the Spread the Joy subscription box. So if you got the subscription box, you have this unique stamp set and you could make this too. So I want to do a quick and simple card. I don't want to get too difficult with dies and embossing and cutting things out. I just want to do some simple stamping. So I'm going to use the Wreath image, right? That would fit just fine. I'm going to use the flower for my embellishment. And then I want to just do some painting with my blend markers, kind of to fill in that back section there. So let's go ahead and do some simple stamping. So I'm going to start with a piece of thick Whisper White cardstock. So I've chosen to use Mossy Meadow, Cherry Cobbler, and then I'm going to use Soft Sea Foam as my third coordinating color. So some simple stamping. So first let's start with lining up our paper on our grid sheet. So I kind of have it split in the middle going up and down. It's a little bit longer at the bottom. That's because I'm going to be working down in this area. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp my wreath right about there. Now, in my head, I want to put the sentiment here. Let's see if I can go ahead and do that. Will Joy fit? Joy will still fit. So maybe I should have started with my sentiment and then had my wreath above it, but I got lucky. Sometimes you have to think about placement before you do stamping. Okay, so now I want to add some berries to my wreath. So far, just paper, inks, and stamps, right? Fill that in. Then I said I wanted to use the flower as my decorative embellishment on the wreath. So I'm going to stamp my flower in Cherry Cobbler. You can see I've got my piece of scrap paper here that I've been working on various projects with. Now, before that dries, I'm going to go ahead and use my Wink of Stella. And I'm going to you see how quickly that color spread? I'm going to wash the color from the stamp into those petals. So it's really nice and easy to do a watercolor wash and add a little bit of sparkle with the Wink of Stella this way. So, and I like the way where it was stamped, it's still super dark, but where I'm brushing out that ink, it's lighter, right? So that's perfect. There's one more little flower here. I'm going to get that. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my Mossy Meadow blend, and I just want to add a little bit of color to the leaves. Just a little contrast. So our wreath is the green and the Cherry Cobbler, and then so is our flower. Okay, so simple stamping, right? Pull out your paper snips and trim out that flower. So, paper snips are definitely an essential tool when making cards. They cut really smoothly. I have to say I was very impressed with them. My very first experience with them at a Stampin' Up workshop many years ago, 20 plus years ago. And even though I own many pairs, because I myself have been running workshops, they certainly last a long time if you take care of them. So, alright, almost done. Now you can see I'm leaving a little bit of a white cloud around my image. Not too much, but a little bit. And that's just going to allow a little bit of contrast between my images when I put them all on the card. So, there's my wreath embellishment. Okay? So now I could leave it just like that, right? But the sketch has this one more element in there, is this band of color. So simple stamping, I don't really want to add layers, right? Because then I'd have to trim out around the wreath, or I'd have to trim the wreath out and put it down on top. I don't really want to do all that work. So instead, I'm going to color with my Soft Sea Foam marker. So I have a piece of scrap paper, scrap cardstock, and my marker. Now it's a blend, it's going to bleed through. So I have this cut out so I can mount it to my card. So I'm just going to try to line up that wreath about half and half. So here's my measure. If I put that down on my half mark and my about half and half, check both up and down. So see, when I put it above, my wreath is a little bit low. So I'm going to scooch that up. Let's try this again. Bottom half, top half, that's about right. Okay, so now I'm going to use my grid paper to help me figure out how much I'm going to band off. You can see from the sketch that it leaves a little bit below and above in that white space and in between. So I don't want it all the way. So I'm going to put this one on the bottom. Let's see, I'm going to come up 1.5. So 2.5 down from that middle line, up 1.5 from the bottom of the wreath. So depending on how you stamped it, you could decide where you wanted to stripe it off. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my brush tip. You could use your pointy tip if you'd rather. So now I just want to kind of eyeball that my paper is straight and that my band here, my masking piece here, is straight as well. So I'm going to come right along the edge and try to create a straight line for the bottom. Okay, now I didn't really color inside the wreath, I'm staying outside the wreath. Okay, so I'm just going to leave my mask there so that I don't make a mistake and color too low. And I'm going to color up. I can really color up a little bit higher than the center line because I know I'm going to go above that center line on my grid paper. Okay, I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. So you can just pull your blend along, right? Or you can work in tight and then come back and blend it out. That's one of the nice things about these alcohol markers, that you can have your lines kind of come in and overlap, and it doesn't really create overlapped lines. Okay, so I'm not going to go any higher. So there's my bottom line. Now I'm going to bring this up. So I went about 2.5. So do I want to go 2.5 up? That's going to be about there. Yeah. Well, let's start with 2. I can always go a little higher. Okay, so that's on my 2 line. My 2 boxes up. So I'm just going to bring this in, finish off this section on this side, and then I'm going to hold down that side, go out. Okay, so soft seafoam and the mossy meadow paired together. I can deal with that. Okay, so I pretty much have cased the card now, right? Cased the sketch. I have the wreath. I have a focal element for my wreath. I've added a sentiment, and I've put the band on, and then because I use soft seafoam as that third color, I'm going to go ahead and mount that onto a soft seafoam card base. Okay, so one more thing I thought I would do, and I am going to do it. So I'm going to bring in my scoring tool, my Simply Scoring. So I use this all the time to score my cards, score my bases, or if I'm doing fancy folds, right? Keep my measurements square and even. But what I'm going to do here, let me bring this down so you can see. So I didn't exactly measure where my lines were going to be, but I did use the grid sheet, so they should be straight. So I can see here, if I come here, I can draw. I'm just going to score along the edge of where that green was. Then I'm going to come up here, find the best fit. I guess it's going to be a little below. So that's just going to add a little bit of texture, but all I did was score it. Now I'm going to go back, I'm going to do a second one. Because this one was right on the line, but this one was a little into the green, so I'm just going to add a second one. So they kind of create a real border, but it's kind of an unseen border. It's more of an up-close border. Okay, so I'm going to add my flower with the dimensional. Give that a little extra pop. Right? If you had gems or other embellishments you wanted to add, you could add them as well. Then that whole thing is going to go on my card face. Now I could snail it down, but I think I'm going to use dimensionals again, just because it's a really simple stamping card. So the dimensionals will just give the whole card a little bit more body and thickness and framing. So just peel those off, and then you just have to center it on your card. Just like that. Okay, so soft seafoam is a really light color, so I'm not going to line mine. I'm just going to stamp the inside sentiment. And again, I'm going to do it in the cherry cobbler. You could do it in the mossy meadow, but I use cherry cobbler on the front, so I'm just going to stick with that same color. Stamp that down. Again, that comes from that same stamp set, right? And if we're going to make a card, we should stamp our envelope. So I'm going to add the flower to the corner of my envelope, maybe like that, for a finished design. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the simple stamping tutorial, and I hope you'll go visit Case the Sketch and see all the other great cards that are submitted. And don't forget, hop on into my blog, pumpkinhillstampers.com, to see more details about this project. I'll list them all out on the blog post and all the other posts that I share all week long. Alright everybody, have a great week, do some fun stamping, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.